Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Dr. Elena Estanol with Luminescent Life and Intuitive Business Mastery, and I'm super excited to be here with you and just sharing a cool training on basically how to transition your practice online or your business online, or how to start creating an online business. I know that there's a lot of people here that are either wanting to grow their business or trying to transition it into their online space. And so I wanted to kind of it's clearly, I'm not going to give you the entire training because there's a lot to it, but I at least wanted to give you some of the kind of main things that you want to be thinking about that you need, both in terms of how would you do things differently and versus an online, what I call online business or practice, and what you would do, online. So let me get my notes here because I try to get my notes so that I have good, there we go. So like I said, if you come in, feel free and pop in and say hi. I would love to see you and get your questions answered. And even if you watch this after the fact, feel free to post your ahas and your questions. So there's a couple of things that need to happen that I just kind of want to go through in general. So I talked a little bit about some of these things in a post, but I just wanted to kind of do a few so there's a few key strategies that you will need to use if you are doing stuff online. And that is, you need to really become more visible. And that means that you need to create basically an online presence so that your clients can see what you do, they can understand what you do, how you can help them, and they can also connect with you. The more that you're able to share your wisdom, and whether this is through blogs, social media, speaking, webinars, radios, podcasts, YouTube, the more that they will see you and recognize and value what you actually provide. So, I'll talk a little bit about those things that I just kind of went through really fast, specifically, but I want you to really think about, what is it, the medium that you want to choose so that your clients can begin to get to know you a little bit better. The second part of that is that, it's interesting because a lot of times, I come from a background, I am a psychologist and a high-performance psychologist. And so much of my training, right, it focuses on being sort of a blank screen or being discreet or private. And especially if you are a health professional or a service-based professional, you have been trained to build some layer of privacy or confidentiality, which I think is super, super important. And I think that in some ways that also creates a layer of unapproachability for many of our clients. And so you really want to show up as who you are. So the more that you can be authentic, the more that your clients can get to know you and connect with you and really get to get a flair for what it would be like to work with you and whether you might be a good fit or not. So for a long time, I really worried about showing some of my flaws and my vulnerabilities. And I noticed that the more that I actually just, show myself who I am with my goofy, playful side, and as well as my flaws and foibles, I think that the better people connect with me, And so ultimately that is really, really important. The second part to that is also credibility. You need to build your credibility both through the content that you share and how you share your expertise, and that you really are able to articulate and solve a problem, right? Obviously, we won't have a business unless we are actually solving problems and helping people with real solutions. And so this is an important piece of what you share and how you share. I think that the other piece of it is leadership. You need to show up as a leader in a consistent manner. And, I'm going to talk both about leadership and consistency because both are two key points, but I want to talk about them interrelatedly, because in some ways consistency is such an important part of it. If you're flaky, or if you show up sometimes positively and sometimes not, or if you're inconsistent in how you show up, your being, this can have a really great impact on how people see you. So it's so much more about who you are and how you're showing up than really the what, the what that you do. So yes, it's important that you solve a real problem, and that how you show up is really, really consistent across all platforms. And of course, you need to be able to keep a positive, abundance-based giving mindset. We tend to attract clients at the vibrational level that we're at. So if we are really stuck in fear or doubt or scarcity, then we're going to come across as needy, pushy, or we just won't enroll people no matter what we say. So really working on your mindset and elevating your vibration is a really, really important piece. So, and of course, this is a component that I often talk about is intuition. It's last but not least, being able to really tap into your intuition to know what it is that you need to share would be an important component. Perhaps who do you need to contact, or who may be the best people to be sharing your content with, or what groups to join. So all of these pieces are an important piece of how you are beginning to set up your online business in a general way. I think that these apply to basically all kinds of businesses. However, I'm going to talk a little bit about having an online presence, because a lot of times people get really hung up with the idea of, I need to have a website, I need to have a, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, blah, 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 blah. And that can feel really, really overwhelming if you are just starting. So if you're just starting and you don't have a website, don't worry. Don't spend all of your time trying to build a website. You probably are going to be better served by creating a Facebook page or even a Facebook group, and doing some directory listings. So this is true for both the psychotherapy and coaching industry. There are some directories that you can pay a yearly or monthly fee to get listed, and people can find you. And so I think that it's a worthwhile investment to invest in directory listings, because it allows more people to find you specifically for what you do. And then I would say choose a platform that you feel comfortable, or a platform in which your clients are hanging out. So that might be Facebook, that might be Twitter, that might be LinkedIn, that might be Instagram. So if you are feeling really overwhelmed by all of them, I would say just pick one or two, and then really be consistent at what you're doing there. Engage with people in a real way, and really provide value. So you can also, decide that you want to create a podcast or radio or guest blogs, which is a little bit more on the advanced side, to build more, not just visibility, but also credibility. However, I think that just even starting an Instagram or a Twitter would be a valuable way, as long as you are creating engagement, and then you are going on the back end and actually having conversations with people, whether it's through the private messaging function. I think that they all have some type of thing that way, where you can actually connect with people one-on-one. So I want you to think about the overall piece of a successful practice as having a couple steps. The first step is attraction, right? So you are wanting to attract people. You want people to sort of start paying attention to what you're doing. So that's number one. Number two would be engagement. You want to start engaging with people. You want to start having conversations with them and getting to know them a little bit. Then number three would be enrollment. And these are when you actually get into conversations with them and you begin to enroll them into a product or service or a program that you have created. And then the fourth is then the deliverability. Well, easy for me to say, deliverability, right? Like, so how are you delivering that transformation? And those are kind of like four of the main, there's probably a whole lot more, but those are kind of the four main pieces that I think about when you're actually starting. So first is attraction, second is engagement, third is enrollment, and fourth is deliverability. Okay. So as we are kind of talking about all of those things. So the first pieces that I was talking about in terms of creating an online presence and, creating some content marketing, whether that is through Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or any of those, or doing guest blogging, those kinds of things. That is part of the attraction. And then being able to start having conversations with people in the back end, being able to say, hey, thanks for liking this. Hey, how can I support you? Can we, can I get to know you? Basically just getting into conversation with people, then that's part of the engagement. And the engagement can just be within the same platform. So both LinkedIn and Facebook, for instance, have the capability of being able to have conversations within a thread and converse with other people. Well, that's really nice, because then you can start then engaging in conversations with people that then might be easier to take offline. So being able to pick a platform that you are going to be in constantly so that then this can happen will make it much easier. Okay, so as we move along, many people have asked me about, like, so what is it like? What's the checklist of the stuff that I'm going to need if I actually want to be doing this online stuff? Okay, so some of the things that you're going to need is going to be a high quality video deliverability system. So I really, really like Zoom, and I use Zoom for just about everything. But Be Live is a platform. It's a little bit more unstable. I wonder if the paid version works a little bit better. I think that there are some other ones like BC and many, many others. Now, if you are a professional, a health professional, that you're having to worry about HIPAA, for instance, then you're going to have to look at platforms that also provide that extra layer of protection like HIPAA. So I have chosen Zoom because it's a really, really easy platform to use, and it has that component. And so then I can use it both through my teaching, coaching, and any kind of psychology stuff that I do. And so it's totally covered. But there are many, many others. And I am happy to put in links to some of these things if you're interested in getting some of these tools. The second part of this is you will probably benefit from having, it's not, I wouldn't say you actually need it, but you probably would greatly benefit from having a scheduling system. And to me, the more automated it is, the easier it'll make your life. And so ultimately, you want to be looking for things that will allow you to scale. So even if you're just starting and you're thinking, well, I have all the time in the world, it doesn't matter if people contact me all the time, that might be true right now as you're starting. And I can guarantee you that as you get busier and busier, you're going to start realizing, like, oh my gosh, I don't have the time to be doing all of these things. How can I start making my life a little easier? And so finding a scheduling system that can make things easier for you will you will love. So there's some that I think Calendly is one, Schedule City is another one. The one that I use is Acuity. I went through many, I tested actually many scheduling systems, and I didn't like them. I mean, I like them for certain things, but there wasn't one that actually had all of the things that I was looking for, except for Acuity. And so I have been totally in love with Acuity because it's totally worked beautifully. I have 2 different accounts for 2 of our different businesses, and it works great. So I really love it. But there's it's not the only option. So I'm kind of sharing a little bit of the things that I really particularly like, but it doesn't mean that it's the only thing out there. So you might want to test some of those things out. And those of you that already have businesses that would like to kind of chime in and say, here's what I like, and this is why I like it, and blah, 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 I think might be really helpful for the rest of our community. So feel free to chime in and just post on our thread. So the next thing that you're going to want to be thinking about before you even get into conversations with clients, and this really surprised me, how many beginning coaches and therapists that I talk to that all of a sudden in a panic don't know what to use once they have the clients there. And so you really want to be thinking about this a little bit ahead of time, and that is a payment processor. And so you could certainly use PayPal, but I think the fees are really high. I think that there's some issues with you being able to get your money if you end up getting I just think that PayPal, while it could work pretty easily, as you grow, you really want to be using something else. There's Square. There's actually really good payment processors that you might be able to access through your bank that might work electronically. And one that I use that I really like, it's super easy to use, is Stripe. And so again, you might need to research a few more. I'm just kind of sharing a few options. And again, if you are a little bit more of a veteran and you want to share with the rest of the group, feel free. I really like Stripe. And so you want to make it really, really easy, basically, for your clients to be able to say yes to working with you, to submitting payments, etc. Then it's not the last thing. The other thing that I want you to be thinking about is a CRM system, and that's a client record management system. So if you are a therapist or some other health practitioner clinician where you need to keep your clinical notes under certain stipulations. So for instance, psychologists, we are required to keep our notes under 2 locks, which means that they need to be locked twice. And that's kind of part of the ethical stipulation. Then you need to then find a system that will allow you to be able to keep your notes and be able to do some other things. So there are some systems that, if you are a clinician, might be able to do many of these things. So I think that there is something like Coaches Console. I think it's a platform that would work for coaches to be able to keep your notes and to keep your schedule. And so it's all integrated into one thing, which you might really like. For therapists, I think there's one that's called Therapy Appointment and Care Path. So you might actually have your schedule and your client record system all in the same. Now, I use one that is called Care Paths. However, many of those many of the client record scheduling type software may not have actually a way to be able to email or send broadcasts or process payments. So some of them will and some of them won't. So you might need to do some research and then kind of decide what's going to be best for you. It's possible that you might need a second client record management system that is specifically designed for you to both capture email addresses and to be able to send broadcasts and or process payments. And potentially, if you are creating online content, classes, workshops, any kind of that, like any kind of video content that you want to provide your clients and you want to house in a specific place, then you might want to really look at some of the integrated places like Simplero. It's my favorite, and I'll talk a little bit more about, I'll come back and talk more about that one. You might want to look at potentially Kajabi, Entreport, or Infusionsoft. If you are starting, I would strongly advise you to stay away from Infusionsoft. It's really, really complicated. It's really expensive. And I would say that most people that have that you really won't need to get into Infusionsoft until you have a 7-figure business or maybe 10,000 or more subscribers in your list. And so, if you're just starting and you just want to be able to find a way to be able to send emails, then MailChimp may be a really good option. I think they have a free version. Maybe Constant Contact may be another one. So these are some ideas, and I want you to just kind of be thinking about, okay, like this is a really helpful thing. I'm going to try that. So I'm going to come back to Simplero because, ever since I started my business, I have tested and tried a whole bunch of different systems, and I am a little bit picky in the things that I want. And most people will tell you there's no perfect system, right? Like there's always something that doesn't work or blah, blah. And Simplero is a platform that I have been absolutely in love with because they provide with a way to basically capture all of the email addresses, and it's basically a great client record management system. Capture the email addresses. You can send broadcasts. You can send specific emails. You can send emails to one person. You can send emails to like your entire list. You can separate and tag people by specific categories. So let's just say that you had a practice where you helped people with relationships, and you had a category of like single people and engaged and married and about, on the verge of divorce and divorced. And then you want to be able to provide content and services to each of them. Then you can potentially like separate them. If you are somebody like me that has a lot of different specialty areas, you can then create different streams and different lists that people can join. The best part of it is that you can integrate it with Stripe and then make a really, really clean and smooth payment processor so that you can potentially, have a conversation with somebody and then enroll them into a product program and then say, okay, well, this is what it's going to be, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to send you the link, or I'm going to take your information over the phone, and then you enter it, a receipt sent to them. If you're generating any online, any video content, it's really beautiful because it allows you also the opportunity to create spaces and create memberships where people can then be taken through and accessed step by step. They are sent an email every time that a module is released. They're constantly working on improving it, which I love about it. They're incredibly soul-centered. And the best part, I think, is that it just gives you the flexibility to be able to even create sales pages, opt-in pages, even your website through their entire platform. And, I think that for a service that includes all of those things, it does not include scheduling. So you will still need a separate software to do your scheduling, but it kind of does everything else. It even tracks affiliates if you ever want to have like affiliate launches and that kind of thing, which is really quite fascinating for actually very little. So I think that their lowest program starts at $100 a month. But if you think about all of the things that it's providing, it's really, really incredibly affordable. It is probably the most affordable service that I have found. For the value and all of the services that it's providing. And as you grow and as you need more, then you can, increase and obviously the investment will increase. But it's really, really nice to be able to have a platform that starts you at a beginning level and then can grow you as you grow. So I will be sure to be dropping some of my affiliate links for some of those things. Basically what it does is that it just will give you access. Sometimes it gives you like a 14-day trial. Sometimes it gives you a 30-day trial. And so it's a really cool thing, and it just maybe buys me some coffee, but so I want to be super transparent about it. But so then that way they know that you heard about it from me. Anyhow, so those are some of the main things that you probably will need to get started. So obviously, right now that might feel like a lot. I want you to know that as long as you have a payment processor and you are being able to engage with people, you can start enrolling people, and that you can slowly begin to build into some of these things. Okay. Now, if you are more advanced and you already have some of those things, or you have already have all of these clients, and you're thinking, I want to be able to provide webinars. I want to figure out a way to build my list and create more people that are opting into my list, that kind of thing. So I did a training a little earlier about creating high converting opt-ins. And so if you are at that stage, then you probably are going to want to look at some kind of software like Lead Pages or ClickFunnels that might allow you to create those fancy opt-in pages. Now, if all that you are really looking for and that all that you really want is a capability to be able to do webinars, then there's a couple of options. There's actually a whole gajillion, a whole host of options, and I'm only going to talk about 4. There's obviously Zoom, and Zoom I love it. Obviously, I use it. It's an easy platform. It's an easy platform to use. It allows you you will need to have a separate something to be able to create the opt-in page, because their sign-up pages are not very pretty, but they function really well. They can have the reminder emails and all of that kind of stuff. Then the next would be Webinar Jam and EverWebinar. They are created by the same company. Webinar Jam is sort of their more entry-level product, and where you can actually deliver webinars live. And what's really cool about it is that it allows you to create inside the platform, you can create the opt-in page and then the thank you page. So you wouldn't need to have a separate something. You wouldn't need to have ClickFunnels or Lead Pages or your website to have that opt-in page, because they can create a pretty nice enough looking opt-in. Now, most people actually still use other things because they're not super fancy, but still you could potentially just use that. EverWebinar, it is sort of the other component of that platform that really allows you to stream those webinars on an ongoing basis. You might see a lot of sort of like the big gurus doing this, where you might see an ad that says, come into this free training, and then it says you can get it started in the next 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or you can start it now. And it's running at any and all times of the day and night. That is being run by the platform called EverWebinar. It's a really incredible, fancy platform that allows you to do all kinds of things. And I probably wouldn't recommend it until you have mastered giving webinars live. I feel like it's really important that we provide webinars live initially so that you understand and know what it is that it's really appealing to your clients, and then you can improve. And as your conversion rate improves, then you can make it easier, and then you can automate it. So EverWebinar is basically a platform for you to be able to automate those webinars once you have delivered them and tweaked them, and they're like absolutely working beautifully. And then I think WebEx is the last webinar platform. I'm not very familiar with it because I haven't really used it. And I'm sure that there's a whole host of other webinar platforms. And, and my guess is that this is going to be improving and changing even as we keep moving along. And so it's always really good to ask others what their experience are, with each one of those platforms, and so if you have any experience, feel free to chime in and share with us, because I'd love to know. And then at that point, you probably might be ready to have, to create a website and kind of a bigger web presence. It's really surprising to me how many businesses now are able to run their businesses with just a Facebook page and no web page. I think that websites in the end are helpful just because it's your web address, right? Like, it is your home where people can find you. And for those people that really don't like Facebook and don't like to engage on Facebook, then it's a really nice place for them to be able to see you and find you and know a little bit more about you, or for you to be able to provide more value or more resources. Okay, so I think that that's kind of the biggest component of it. I think that there's obviously a whole host of things that you need to be thinking about. If you are a therapist or some other health practitioner, you want to be thinking about how to secure many of their communications, or create a way to be able to help your clients opt into communicating with you in different ways, so that it is, totally going according to your ethical and legal guidelines and all of that kind of stuff. And it's a little bit easier if you're a coach, and things are a little bit more free. And the reality of it is that most clients don't really care, but I think it's important that we still are paying attention to what some of those legal and ethical guidelines are, and then to adjust as we go. So the last thing that I'm going to suggest that you really absolutely need is to have a mastermind group or a consultation group. I think that having an online business or practice can be a very, very isolating thing. And if you really want to grow, there are so many things that can be really challenging, that can go wrong. And so it's easy to get discouraged. That's where kind of that mindset piece comes really, really strongly. Having a coach is really helpful, because ideally they're helping you see kind of what you need to do, and kind of keep you away from, like, stay away from that. Don't waste your time with this. Stay focused on this, or, do that kind of thing, and help you stay on course and really feel and be more successful in the efforts that you are doing. But I do believe that a mastermind group or consultation group is key, because without it, it's so easy to fall prey to all of the doubt, the self-criticism, to take criticism from outside seriously, to get discouraged, and then to sort of slow down. And then that impacts consistency. And the moment that your consistency starts being flaky, then it becomes very, very difficult, because then you sort of need to start over with engagement and that kind of thing. And so I really encourage you to be really thinking about the investments that you make, especially as you are moving forward, that you really are looking at finding a mastermind group with somebody that is experienced in running groups, that is experienced in guiding people to create the kind of success that you are looking for, and that it's going to give you allow you and bolster you to grow and achieve the results and the goals that you want. So feel free to send me any questions, or email me any questions or comments about this. I'd love to know what resonated for you the most powerfully. What is the thing that you are taking away from this? And if you have any other comments or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. If you want to hear more, a little bit more about me, you can go to intuitivebusinessmastery.com. And if you want to find some of my free stuff, it's at intuitivebusinessmastery.com/free. And I have a bunch of free resources that can help you get your practice started and master your mindset. So I would really love to hear your comments, your questions. And until then, this is Dr. Elena Estanol with Luminescent Life. Defy the ordinary, become extraordinary. I will see you soon.